Hey there traders, David Floyd here with Aspen Trading Group. Back in late 2018, one of the things I wanted to work on in 2019 was taking the Ask Dave section of our website, which has been really popular and a great way for me to communicate with clients in terms of their questions and bringing out my insights to their questions, was to put them on video. Oftentimes I get questions that are fantastic, but it's just a lot easier for me to talk to you about the question and provide my answer rather than me writing it out, inserting in a graph and whatnot. So here we go. We're kicking off the first video of 2019 for the Ask Dave format with one from Connor W. Here's how it goes. Hey Dave, thanks for taking the time to allow young traders like myself to ask a seasoned trader like you some questions. I really like your work. I follow you on Twitter and love the videos on Real Vision. Hope that one day I can be successful, knowledgeable, and disciplined. Here's my question, and it's about holding on to winning trades. Specifically, how much wiggle room do you allow for the trend to continue for more profits while balancing prudent profit taking? So many times I either take profits too soon only to see the security continue to move in the direction I'd intended, or I allow it to wiggle too much and then I give up all of my gains. Frustrating. I know there probably isn't a magic formula, but any tips or thoughts on this would really be appreciated. Thanks again, Connor. I think the best way to look at managing winners, and of course managing losers, that's just as important, is basically by looking back and examining your original premise for being in the trade. You know, for me personally, I look at my trades from a technical standpoint, rooted largely in Elliott Wave and Fibonacci. I do look at other factors as well, but by and large, that is the driving factor between how I make trades, how I manage trades, and how I hopefully manage them to their full expectation or cut them early to, manage against further losses. So the first thing you have to do is know that, one, the market may not always agree with whatever your expectation is. We might look at a trade and say, you know what, I'm going to get long the euro here. I think it's going to go from 1.10 to 1.12. And then the market has really no care in the world as to what your opinion or forecast is. So we always have to bear that in mind. The market's not always going to see eye to eye with what your analysis is. Oftentimes it will, and that's great. That's proof that you've become an effective trader at isolating entry points that get reaction from your analysis. I think to answer the question directly though, we've all been in trades where, we're up money and then money starts to trickle away because there's a corrective pullback. We start to question our thesis. Does it still make sense? Should I book profits? Again, sometimes we can't always know what the best course of action to do is. I think one of the best ways to bridge that gap, though, is using time. We have a built-in expectation when we get into a trade as to what should happen under a particular time frame. If you're a longer-term investor, you don't really care what happened last week unless it was like detrimental price action. If you're a swing trader like myself, you're expecting things to happen in a certain amount of time, and if they don't, that premise that you had does fall under scrutiny. So I think that's really the best way to look at it. One, is the trade progressing in the way that you thought it would? If the answer is yes, fantastic. Continue to monitor it. If prices begin to stall and are not moving in the direction that you thought they were, and we're getting a lot of overlap in the price action, one, maybe it's just a correction, hang tight, or maybe it's indicative of something else. Maybe the market is not agreeing with what your overall outlook is. So while you're right, Connor, there is no black and white or magic answer. I think it has to go back to being very, very clear and honest with yourself, saying, does the premise still make sense? And the answer is yes or no. And largely that can be set, or that question can be answered by the price action. How is the price action unfolding? If prices are moving definitively higher or lower, depending on what your forecast is, fantastic. Hang tight. Adjust your stop losses lower to areas where you can lock in your profits, where if that stop loss is taken out, the trade would have been invalidated anyways. But I think the more challenging question, which is really what you're asking, is What do you do when the trade starts to slow down and it just seems like it's meandering? Fact of the matter is, if it's meandering, something has changed or the market's not seeing it the way that you thought you saw it. In which case, you're best off booking partial profits, tightening stops to either break even or some relative technical level that if it's broken, then you know the trade is no longer valid. So again, I think that's the best advice. There's nothing wrong with booking profits. As they say, you'll never go broke taking profits. Sure, it's really frustrating to, book a profit because you didn't think the trade was valid anymore, only to wake up the next day and the market's higher. That's going to happen to you for the rest of your trading career. That's just part of being a trader. We can't possibly know every outcome. We can only know what's in front of us at that point in time and make a guess as to what might happen next. So use time and price action as a way to validate whether you should stay in the trade or manage it more effectively. Connor, hopefully that helped. And I encourage everybody out there to send me your questions. We're going to do a lot more of these in video format going throughout 2019. Hopefully you enjoyed this. I'd love to get questions, love to give you the answers, and love to share my insights with you. This has been David Floyd with Aspen Trading Group, and this is the Ask Dave section of our videos. I encourage you to contribute to them, and I look forward to answering the next set of questions.